Today, I'm joined by a fantastic individual. This man was born in my hometown, Melbourne, and soon after moved to Adelaide. He played his junior days in Adelaide before the big time came knocking. And after he wrote many, many letters to top clubs, one of them said, "Come on down, son, give it a go." He took that opportunity, and the rest is history. He's won titles at Chelsea and at Leeds, and actually played in a playoff game in the 1990 World Cup. None other than the great Aussie, Tony Dorigo. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you. That's some intro. Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome, sir. So tell me, how did you fall in love with our great game?
Well, that's an easy one. When you have an Italian father, it is in the blood. It's crazy. They love their football. So from a very young age, he would take me down to training. Obviously, I played starting at school at 5, 6 years of age. But I just loved the game, and my dad loved the game. Even as my mum loves the game, that they both follow it now. I mean, they get up in the middle of the night to watch games from all around the world. Obviously, I commentate on a lot of them as well, so they get up to listen to me. And it's always been in the blood. So for me to go straight into to football or soccer was really straightforward. It was just something we always did and wanted to do.
Okay, and so first childhood club, where was that?
Ascot Park Primary School. That was my first. I remember it was green and black stripes. And we had actually some decent players there. We won, obviously, just about everything. A couple of games I remember really clearly just growing up, which is strange, but certain things you do remember very clearly. We played another school called Colonel Light Gardens, and I think we won. I think it was 21-0 or 22-0. It was something like that anyway. And I managed to score 14. Now, the only reason I scored 14 is because I was the only one that could chip the ball consistently over the little goalkeeper, because we were only 8 or 9 years of age and we had these gigantic goals to play in. It wasn't fair, but I just kept putting it over this poor lad in the goal. And I scored 14. I came off after the game. And you imagine all mums and dads are going, "Oh, well done, well done, well done." And my dad goes, "Well, you could have had a couple more. And also you should have passed at that point and you should have done that." And I thought, "Oh, okay, Dad, I've got to get better. 14 is not enough just in the one game." So that was interesting. But another one actually involves Donald Campbell, our amazing, of course, FIFA referee. Yeah. And his son, I played with his son, Graham, and at Burkalla. And that was another young team that I started with. But we played a tournament at Burkalla's ground. And I remember in the final, I took this player on and I scored in the bottom corner, but the ball went through the net and out. And I looked at Donald. Of course, he's a FIFA referee, but he's giving his time up to referee some kids, some little tournament. And I run off as if I've scored, because I had scored. It went in the goal. And he didn't give the goal. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, "Oh, come on, he's a FIFA ref. I mean, he must know it went through the net. He should have checked the net before," or, all this sort of stuff. Anyway, it wasn't given. But interesting, afterwards, he came up to me and he said, "No, I'm sorry. I missed that. It was a goal." So, but we remained really good, friends since. And I mean, growing up, I had some great fun. Yeah, it was just all about playing for football. I kept changing clubs and eventually I ended up at Adelaide City.
Yes.
And I think it was under 14, under 15. But yeah, I played for Burkalla, Cumberland, Polonia, one or two other teams there.
And so you're still a baby, in all things considered, 14, 15 years old. And you gravitate towards the first team. When was it when you started training with the first team?
At Adelaide City, I was training as a 15-year-old. So at 15, they got me to train with the first team, and it was really good, because I firmly believe when you're a youngster, I was fortunate because I played with my dad and men at a very young age. So, for me, it wasn't about your physicality, it was about your brain. So it was developing your ability to think. So it wasn't my physical attributes that would get me out of trouble or make me look good. It was actually, I was thinking about the game because, as a 5-stone kid, I couldn't compete against 13, 14 stone adults. So I had to think about things. So I think it's important to always try and certainly push yourself to a level that always tests you. Tomorrow scoring 14 every week is no, it teaches me nothing. All it teaches me is I've got a small goalkeeper and I can chip it. You need to have a lot more than that. So going up at the right time, I think, is really important. So at 15, playing against the men of Adelaide City was really good. So now I'm amongst some really good players. They're helping me, they're testing me, they're teaching me all sorts of things. And around better players, you become better.
Yes.
And if you've got the appetite and ability, you learn. And so that's really what happened. And I suppose at that point, I'm thinking, okay, my next step is going to get into this first team, but where do I go after that? What's the next level up? And that's when obviously I start thinking about playing overseas. But Justin Fashanu actually arrived, the great English striker who who scored that goal of the season at Norwich actually that year. He came to guest star for 4 or 5 games, and I talked to Justin a lot just to get some feedback, some understanding. What am I going to encounter? And you're right. Then I just wrote letters explaining all my footballing background and waited. But Justin said, if you don't get any club, I'll get you into Norwich for a trial anyway. So when you arrive in England, let me know and I'll help you. But yeah, it was always, playing with the men at a young age, I think, which really helped me.
Okay. So at this point, obviously throughout your junior career, you're good enough to play up the pitch. You're pinging 14 at a school game. Now you're 15. What part of the pitch are you playing in now? Where?
Yeah, I'm still left wing. I'm left-sided, so very much left-footed. So yeah, I'm still scoring goals and playing not through the middle, but on the left-hand side. So that's how I saw myself. I also played obviously for South Australia all through the age groups, and I had some great times there and great coaches, John Karunas, George McMillan, all these sorts of people helped me along the way, which was wonderful. And for a little South Australia side to go, of course, and play the likes of New South Wales and Victoria and all that, it was big stuff when you were a kid. So of course, it was really exciting. Yeah. And
obviously now, because you're not a huge man. You're not small, but what you 5'9", 175 kilo height. At 15, you probably haven't grown to that height. So how are you using your football intelligence to ensure that you're still contributing? Okay, but there's some beasts in there in that back line, right? They can. You're playing in an era where a man with one tackle can end your career, right? So you're talking about that football intelligence, because it doesn't really happen today. The 15-year-old playing in even Australia's top flight, it's rare. But
yeah. So I think you're right, and I think for me, it's interesting when you say that, because you're right. I was 6-7 stone, wringing wet. That was it. And I remember the first game I played one game actually for the senior side before I left for England for Adelaide City. And I remember going to the dressing room, and they give you your kits, your shirt, your shorts, and your socks, and what have you. And I put the shorts on, and it didn't fit. The shorts kept falling off me. So fortunately, I had my own pair of shorts, and they were a bit smaller, so they fit absolutely fine. So that was good. Yeah, speed of thought. I always say you look at the great players around the world, and especially defenders. I'll just talk defenders, because when you see certain players, imagine John Terry, the English great defender, not quick. Not quick. First yard was in his brain. Always could read the game, and the yard that he had was in his brain. So that's how you then work and develop and play. Now Maguire at Manchester United, not a quick player, but again, positioning, it's that sort of thing. So convert that to what I did. If I try and physically go against an adult at 14, 15, you're right. I'm going to get clogged. I'm going to get kicked. I'm going to get hurt. You soon learn. You very, very much soon learn. And suddenly your movement becomes important. So what do you do? The first thing, if you want to receive the ball, first thing you do, you need to be nice and clear how you want to receive the ball from your defender. So what do? Well, I take the defender away first, then I spin and I come back. I've got my half a yard of space. That's all I need. I got my yard, I get the ball,
and you're off.
And I'm at him. So yeah, and you're off. So it's just things like that. And you learn that as you're going along. But that's why I think it was important that, I wasn't advanced for my age physically when I was young. It's important I was kind of, you're right, only small, 5'9" is an average height. All that I think helped me develop. Now, of course, you have a lot of techniques and training of how you can develop. Doesn't matter what size you are, because that is really important. However, if you're looking back when I started, 30, 40 years ago, it was very much all about physicality. And fortunately, I worked out how to combat that and get better.
Awesome. So, and ambitious, 15 and ambitious. Obviously, you've got the go ahead to if it doesn't work out, you've got a safety net trial. But you write to a bunch of clubs, 14, 15, if I understand the story correctly, and most of them don't respond. But you get a letter back, and Villa say come for, if I remember correctly, they come for 4 days. You can have a go for 4 days. Is that how the story goes?
Yeah, it is. It is. What's interesting, when I grew up, I always wanted to be a professional soccer player.
Yes.
I do remember one clear thing at primary school when when you're 8, 9, 10 years of age, and the teacher asks you to write down in future the three things you'd like to be when you're an adult, but now you're a kid. So you're dreaming about these things. So what are the 3 things you'd like? And I put number 1, professional soccer player. Number 2, professional soccer player. Number 3, professional soccer player. And the teacher turns around and says, Tony, what is wrong with you? I don't know. I didn't see anything else. And I think looking back, I don't know how I had that kind of tunnel vision, but I certainly set myself a goal, and that's what I was after. And I wrote to the top 12, I think it was, clubs at the time. I didn't want the bottom half. I wanted the top half, which is ridiculous. Which I'm looking back now thinking, what is wrong with you? But hey, if you're going to do it, go big, dream big, or go home. That's what I think. So I got a letter back only from Aston Villa. But when I got that envelope and it had the claret and blue little logo on the front, oh God, I was so excited. I opened it up, and they gave me a 4-day trial. I had to pay for everything to get over there. Yep. They said, if you turn up on this day, we'll allow you to train with the youth team. So with the under 18s, and I was only 15, until Monday to Thursday, not on a Friday, because that's when they do all their set pieces and you'll get in the way. So can you turn up? We're here and waiting. I thought, well, I've got a chance. Here we go.
It's interesting that you say that power of intention, right? That really you knew at a young age what your intention was. Is this something that you've carried on throughout your career, is setting intention and being sort of all in about it like you were as a young boy? Is that carried through your career?
Yeah, it has. And it's interesting. I actually do some keynote speaking about it as well now, because for me, I've reached the very top in football. And how did I do that? Am I different to the next player that in Adelaide that was 8 years of age? And, how much different am I, and where am I different? And why did I do that and others didn't? So you look at all that, I find that really fascinating. And I've worked out along my journey, it's mentally.
Yes.
That the best players in the world have that mental strength, that mental ability. Yes, of course you have to have the technique, but why do some players with great technique never reach the heights that you think they should do? Well, it all comes down to you and your brain. It's interesting, and I'm just developing this a bit more, and I call it actually the boomerang effect. And that's why I keep my Australian in there, because the boomerang effect, you know why? It always comes back to you. Always comes back to you. And no matter what happens to you, it's how you react to it is really important. So you have a goal in mind, you have there's little steps each way, but it's how you react to it. And I've heard so many stories. People even now come up to me and goes, I could have been this, I could have been that. When I was young, I played for so-and-so, but the coach didn't like me, the manager didn't like me, they didn't like me. I ignore all of that. I find that very, very frustrating, because you can't let that sort of people character get in the way of where you want to go. And that's how I dealt with things all through my career. I think another really important facet is always learning, wanting to get better, wanting to learn, keeping the mind open. And once you've achieved something, well, let's go and achieve the next thing. Once you've achieved that, now, how do I achieve the next thing? Yeah. So for me, it was never a case of, I wanted to be a professional soccer player, absolutely. But that wasn't the end of the journey. First it's getting into that first team, then it's playing 100 games, then it's winning a title. Then can I go to the next thing? Can I win a cup? Can I play for England? Can I go to the championship? Whatever you then achieved, you still wanted to, have some more. Can I score the winner at Wembley? Yep, I've done that. Can I do it again though now? Can I score again? There was no, not satisfaction is the wrong word, because I always felt really content and satisfied, because I was giving my everything and all, which I think is really important. I was doing the best that I could. And I thought I was covering every single base to make sure I could. But it doesn't mean you don't still want to go a bit more and keep learning. So that was a thing that pushed me right through.
So what I heard from you is power of intention, growth set mindset, being grateful for where you are in the present moment, but also there's another level. There's always this other level. Whatever it is, improvement, another level or another layer to the onion. There's it's a never-ending story. So it's enjoy the journey along the way. So fantastic learnings for those young players who are going to be listening to this. So it's this period, because you played over 100 games for Aston Villa from 83 to 87. And during that time, you get the call up to play for the under 21 side, I think, at England. Eventually ended up captaining that side. I don't know exactly when, but you were the captain of the under 21s at one stage.
Yeah, I was with Gaza. He was my era. So we played together. That was interesting, trying to captain Gaza. Good luck with that one. Fantastic
player. Probably one person, people could argue maybe the most talented English footballer ever. I mean, definitely in the top handful of talent, potential. Paul Gascoigne, he could do whatever he wanted on the pitch. But this is where I think we lose you, Tony, because you get the call up for the England. So we've already lost you, rather, right? So the minute you put on a white jersey with those three lines on the front, then I think the die is cast, because then there's only a natural progression. Then when you get your first cap, so talk to me. Was there ever a serious bid from the federation or coaches within Australia, because AROC had the side at that time, to make serious approaches to get you to play for Australia?
Yeah, there was. And this all happened when I was still very young. I managed to sign professional Aston Villa at 17 and a half. They signed me early because I was doing that well. I went through the ranks pretty quickly. At 18, I made my first team debut for Aston Villa in the 83-84 season. And then Australia, gave me a call. I think it was a European-based representative, and said, right, we have some World Cup qualifiers coming up, and we'd like to consider and call you up. this is when they are.
Yeah, and to be fair, we're playing like Samoa and Fiji or whoever, right? And so
I was just about to come to that, and that was the thing. But nevertheless, I got this phone call, and oh God, I thought, wow, this is amazing. I can't wait. And so I was excited, and they told me the games, and you're right, it was these Fiji, and again, no disrespect to those countries, but I had to then leave England and come out for those games. And there was about 4 or 5 close together. And they said, you can't really go kind of back and forward. You've just got to, can you stay for like 4 to 5 weeks? And I'm thinking, right, I've just got my big break. I'm just in the Aston Villa's first team. I'm going to play Manchester United at Old Trafford. I'm going to play Arsenal at Highbury. But yeah, I want to play for Australia. So I go in to see the manager. And I had this conversation with the manager, and halfway through the conversation, when you're talking and you can hear yourself and thinking, yeah, I don't want to play at Old Trafford. I want to play against Fiji away
in Nadi. Yeah.
No, I don't. No, I need to play against Manchester United at Old Trafford for my professional future. And anyway, halfway through the conversation, the manager, Tony Barton, says, are you serious, Tony? Starts laughing at me and says, go on, get out of here. You're playing at Manchester. We're not allowing you to go.
Yeah.
And the other issue was, at the time, the international calendars weren't aligned.
Yeah, rubbish.
Okay, so now, that was, for me, that was a huge problem, because they weren't aligned. You're not allowed to go and play for your country. I had to ask permission from my club. My club said no, and kind of that was the end of it. Now you've got players flying all around the world, going back to their home countries to play, because all the calendars are set the same, which works an absolute treat. Then it was just impossible. So basically, I said, I'm sorry, I can't. I've got to stay and play, but I'm only 18, for goodness sake. So, and then of course, a year and a half after that, or so, England come calling, and they say, listen, you've been here now 4 years. You do realise if you have 1 more year's residence, you can then become a British citizen, and you can pick which country you'd like to play for within Great Britain. And we'd love that to be England. Can you please, play for us? Yes. And so that's when I had a decision to make. But it was difficult, because I didn't really feel it was much of a decision, in that, well, I couldn't go away for all these weeks anyway. And obviously I was in England and playing, and I chose to play for England. And yeah, under 21s is where I started. And yeah, I was the captain with Paul Gascoigne, who, by the way, for me is the best player I've ever played with. He is technically, an absolute genius, and he's a very special player. But and that was on the road then to playing for the full England squad.
Yeah. So the obviously fantastic to make it in Villa's first team at such a young age, then to go on to captain the England under 21 side. I think I know you said that the decision was made once England came knocking, but I think once you captain the 21s, I mean, for me, I think already the die is cast. I know that formally when you made your first full cap, that's officially once the obviously the ink is dry. What was it like hearing the national anthem of England, God Save the Queen? You're standing there.
It's interesting you say that. Yeah, I know. It is interesting you say that, because those moments are, I look back now, obviously, because I've lived here now for so long. Mm-hmm. It's more normal to me.
Yes.
Back then, it was not so normal. And I was stopping myself trying to sing the Australian national anthem, and I'm listening to this sort of thing. So it was difficult. It was difficult. And I must admit, sometimes I felt like I wasn't Australian and I wasn't English.
Yes.
And that's a weird situation to be in. I felt like I was in the middle of the ocean somewhere.
Yes.
Because every time I would then talk to some Aussie journalists, they would say, "Oh, you speak like a Pom now. You're English." And then when I'm playing for England, it's always Australian born. It's Aussie, plays for England. So I was the Aussie and then I was the Englishman, but in a different country. So it was strange. So listening to that, it was, I would always go back to thinking about Australia, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the people around me and my teammates, and you start to then, you then get involved in it. And then it was, it's really proud to sing the national anthem as well. But yeah, I must admit, it's not something that you just suddenly hit the ground running. The first couple of times you think, okay, let's not sing Australia Fair or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So I could assume the first couple of times it would have been sort of like, oh yeah, okay, I know we're in the white shirt. All the boys are mates, right? So it's this football brings you together. You play with your mates. You form friendships in these sides. Some of them become lifelong friendships. But yeah, that I'm sure that right now you feel very proud to have lived in England all your life, but we'll still always call you an Aussie, despite
Thank you. Thank you, because that is important. Because my football education and what made me what I am, is Australia. It's being Australian. It's having that attitude, I think. Yes. And that's why I think the Aussies with that mentality have a great mentality in all the sport they do. And I think that really helped me. And everyone looks at me, certainly from being an Australian, and to have that kind of upbringing, I think is really important, just to show, what can be done in Australia. You can certainly reach the highest of heights, but at my time, I think I left at the right time to be exposed to the next level. And I think that's where I think I was fortunate. My timing was very good in that, 12, 13, mentally you can't cope. You're not, mature enough. 15 was tough. It was really tough for me. I was so homesick. I was so cold. I'm thinking, I am not going back to Birmingham. What is this rain? Where's the sun gone? It's only down under. It's not in Birmingham. It was horrific. It was absolute. I was going to bed with lots of tracksuits on because they wouldn't turn the heating on. It was just freezing. So it was really, really tough. But when you're determined, you kind of look past those things. But if I went at 18, 19, too late, that 2-3 years of development, I would have missed. Suddenly I'm going as a 15-year-old kid from Oz. I'm now going against some of the best professional players, in England at 17 and 18, and they're training every single day. They've got morning, afternoon sessions, and you can't help but get better. So I think my timing was really good. But where I was very, very fortunate as well, and this is a really important point, is that my parents actually joined me. Yes. They agreed to come over whenever they could. So they sold up and came over. So I was alone for about a year or so, but I'm not sure whether I could have actually come back, if they had said no. But they did. They said, they'd come over, and that really mentally, helped me kick on.
And it goes to show, I think every player, it makes it whatever level, we need to acknowledge their family becomes central to that success, because that's the unit that becomes the supporting mechanism to build the foundations for that player to then kick off. If your mother and father didn't sell up shop and come and stay next to you to support you, maybe there would have been a different sliding door. Maybe you would have come back, right? So I think it's important to acknowledge how mothers and fathers support professional athletes in their development, because
No, it's enormous. It's absolutely enormous, because, I look back, and a lot of the things that I think are really good building blocks and things to understand, I had that naturally from my parents. So, and I talk to others, and they're thinking, wow, you were lucky. I'm thinking, actually, geez, I was lucky. I was so lucky to have that support and that understanding and that help. It put me on the right path. And my dad, very much would always, he was very, how do I put it? He was very firm. I talked to other people about this, and they go on, didn't he praise you? Didn't he say, great? I'm thinking, well, he kind of did in a way, but he always wanted me to improve.
Push.
He always looked at, Yeah, push me, but you can do that better, But what about that? I remember Mum saying to him, "Oh, go on, tell him he's done well." And he goes, "He did okay, but I think he could have done this, this, and this." And the first time that he told me I played like fantastic was actually when I played for Aston Villa. I think it was 18-19. We played away at Arsenal, and I was only a kid, and I'm playing at Highbury. And I think we won. I had a wonderful game. I was man of the match, and he said, "Wow, son, you played really well. God, I could have. You knocked me down with the feather." I thought, "What, Dad? What? Say that again, Dad?" It was brilliant, And so I'm very mindful that solidity around me at that time was, it put me on a great path.
So I need to be selfish here because I know you've got a fantastic club behind you, but you moved from Aston Villa to Chelsea, and I'm a Chelsea fan, so I would like to ask one or two questions because you ended up winning a division title with Chelsea in probably an unsettled era. One might say, looking back at your time at Chelsea, I don't know if one could say that based on how the chairman sort of was involved in the club at the time.
But you're exactly right. You've hit the nail on the head. I mean, at Chelsea, what's interesting, at Aston Villa, when I was 18, 19, I think 19, 20 or so, I was player of the year at Aston Villa. I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to play for Villa for the rest of my career.
Why not?
Then, as you do, I would have signed a long-term contract. Everything was going wonderfully well. But one year we were really struggling to score goals, and we needed a striker desperately. And Aston Villa wanted to buy Chelsea's striker, David Speedie. Yeah. And Chelsea said, "Well, the only way you can have David Speedie is if we have Tony Dorigo." And they're going, "Oh, okay, we've got to do it. We've got to do it." So I just get a call from Aston Villa's chairman to say, "Right, the Bentley, I'm driving down to, not my Bentley, by the way, the owner, the Villa's owner's Bentley. I'm going to pick you up. We're going down to talk. Chelsea want to buy you. We want to buy David Speedie."
There you go.
I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked. I'm thinking, "You're going to get rid of me. I don't understand what's going on." I had that one day to decide. I said, "No, I'm not, not doing it." Unfortunately, went back to my club. We got relegated, and Graham Taylor, the England manager, came in at that time to be the new manager. But Chelsea came in and offered a lot of money for me, and obviously they were still doing well in the top division, and so there were talk about me playing for the full England squad and what have you. So I thought, well, Villa tried to get rid of me. Chelsea really, really want me. They're paying a lot of money for me. Yeah. I thought, that's it. I'm off to Chelsea. And Chelsea at that time were great. I mean, the support was tremendous.
Yes.
Ken Bates was the chairman. We had some really good players, England players, Scotland players like Gordon Jury, Steve Clark, who's a Scotland manager now, was there at right back. Kerry Dixon up top, scoring plenty of goals. Yep. So it was an exciting time. But the chairman really ruled that club, and I found a lot of things quite difficult or negative to try and win titles, win the big prizes. And I wanted to get better. I wanted to win things. But yeah, I had a great time there. Again, I was player of the year there. We did get relegated that first year. The following year, we come back, won the title. We were clear by, I think, 15, 16 points. We won it by a street. And I had a great time. I got to Wembley and scored a winner in a cup final as well, 1-0 into the top corner in front of 80,000 people. I mean, these are just,
magical
wonderful, wonderful memories when I was at Chelsea. Yeah.
And so that idea, and it's interesting that you say that, because it doesn't matter at what level you play at. Maybe all we want as footballers is to be wanted. Maybe it's as simple as that. The call, Tony, we want you, right? And that's enough of a sort of a draw card to pull you across. And yes, there's money and etc. And yes, it needs to make financial sense. But if you're not wanted, then how are you going to give your all, right? And when you're wanted, it's an easy way to make that transition from one club to another, or it makes it easier. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's like I was getting sacrificed at Villa, and I understood why, but suddenly, you do feel like, well, but they were willing to sacrifice me. But then you've got on the other side a Chelsea team that were desperate to sign me. They've come in 2 or 3 times. They're giving me, this contract. They have these ideas. They want me to be part of it. They want me to be central to it. And you're thinking, well, yeah, okay, that's what I want. That's what I want. You also want a common goal, and you also, I worked out, you want everyone rowing in the same direction.
Yes.
Because once you have someone rowing that way and someone going that way, your power isn't going where it should be. And that's how I found Chelsea. That there's some great players there. We could win
disjointed
6-7. Yeah, we could win 6-7 games in a row, but we could then easily, something small would put us all off kilter, and the whole club would be all over the place again, and we go and lose, 5 or 6 in a row. And that's where I found it hugely frustrating. At our best, we were certainly a top 4 or 5 side, but we only got anywhere near that a couple of times. And for me, it was more to do with how the club was run, and that relationship between the owner and the manager. It is very difficult to produce a title winning side with what was going on there. And that's what I worked out early. And that's where I then decided that I needed to look elsewhere once my contract had finished. Glasgow Rangers came in. They tried to sign me time and time again.
Okay.
And I wanted to go, but Chelsea would not let me go. So I stayed, got obviously back in the first division, had a couple of good seasons there. Again, I was player of the year at Chelsea. Everything went really well, but I was always leaving at the end of my contract.
And the interesting thing, so you've got fantastic performances, individual performances in a sort of, let's call it a confused setup at Chelsea. And I'm comfortable to say that being a Chelsea supporter looking back at that era. But in that time, you're rocking. Okay, you're getting selected now. You're off to Italy. You've qualified. You're trying to make that squad. Talk to me what it was like. How hard it is to simply even just know that you're in the squad, and there's another 22 boys there that are fighting for your spot, because you're in that situation where it wasn't always a guarantee that you're a first 11 player. You still need to put in the effort, right, and earn that spot. So talk to me what it's like in that scenario. You've got a team-based squad, but obviously every player wants to be in the first 11.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what is really important that I learned early on as well was the fact that the press, if you read everything that's written about you and said about you and on TV about you, you'll drive yourself mad. Okay. So it is really important to understand what is important, and for me, that's how I feel I've done and played and prepared my manager and my teammates. That's the little circle that is just overriding importance of anything else. So whatever else I read, I take it with a pinch of salt. I really do, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And you're never as great as they say you are. You're never as bad as they say you are. You're probably somewhere in the middle. And as long as you understand that, then that's fine. And I learned that pretty quickly, because when I was at Chelsea, Kenny Sansom was the great England left back. And they were looking at the next heir apparent to that position. And clearly a couple of newspapers had picked it was going to be me. So I'm now the next left back for England. And so every time there was a report on a game in these particular papers, I would mostly get man of the match. It's just, great, England's next number 3 and all this sort of stuff. And this one game I played at Southampton away, first touch I had, the ball bobbled, hit me in the shin, and I've kicked it right into the stand. I mean, I just had a disastrous start. It was a nightmare. I thought, oh my God. The next one, same thing, it bobbled again. I've just booted it anyway. I'm thinking, what the hell? It's like I had my boots on the wrong foot. I better put them back on the right ones and I'll be fine. Anyway, obviously things went okay after that, but I didn't have the greatest of games, as simple as that. Yeah. In the paper, next day, man of the match, 9 out of 10, Dorigo, England.
Oh,
class. No. I said, you got to be kidding. I thought I was horrific. So I soon worked out, park all that, forget that. It's your own level of in performance that's important.
Mm.
And as long as you always have prepared properly, you've done your homework, you understand your role within the side, you give it everything, and you do the best of what your ability has given you, I am really content with wherever that takes me. So you talk about, getting in that first 11. Absolutely. I'll do everything that I can to do it. As long as I'm doing that, I'm pretty pleased with, then whatever happens after that. Unfortunately, it took me into the England squad. It took me to 15 England caps. I went to the 88 European Championships. I went to the 1990 World Cup. I went to the 92 European Championships. So it was difficult because I wanted to have, 70, 80 England caps. I get a lot of kind people come up to me and says, "Oh, you must be so disappointed. You've only got 15 England caps, because if it wasn't for Stuart Pearce, you would have had 70 or 80 England caps." I don't look at it like that. I look, I am delighted to get my 15 England caps. You can always say if, buts and maybes, but I did what I could, did my best at the time. Injuries at the wrong time for me hindered me a little bit, but you know what? To last to 35, fit and well, is an absolute blessing. So I have no problems with that. So back to your question about trying to keep that pressure up. You really keep it into the correct bubble and do your best.
And probably you think about that 90 England squad, you guys set the benchmark. Was the shirt heavy? Because the English press are relenting, for us, if you played for us, it would be like an absolute pleasure, right? You know what I mean? A Tony Dorigo, or even a Craig Johnson playing for us, coming back to me would be like mind-blowing, right? But it seems like being an Aussie and looking at the English press, they want to build you up and then they want to tear you down. So when you wear that shirt, right, those three lines, is it heavy, or is it like, oh yeah, whatever?
Yeah, that's an interesting observation, because you're absolutely right in the fact that the shirt is very different, and it is a heavy shirt to wear, and you need to understand the parameters around it. The English press, they love to build you up, just to chop you off at the knees again when they can. So again, understanding all that is important. I think what was quite fortunate for us in that we weren't back to do fantastic things at the World Cup. So we had a bit of a quiet build-up. And then we stumbled across the formation in 1990 of going three at the back in some warm-up games. And I remember, actually, I played with Gaza in the friendly at Wembley before we went to the World Cup against Czechoslovakia.
Yes.
And Gaza wasn't in the side at that point. So me and him had an opportunity. I remember I set one up for him. He scored an incredible goal. He scores another one. He was man of the match. Gaza was amazing. Suddenly, he was forced into the team because England says, listen, you've got to play him. It's as simple as that. He has to play. And from that, we suddenly developed this side. And we had an excellent squad that just got better and better. And at the World Cup, if you think back to the team that England had then, we developed into some team. You got Lineker up top, the goal scorer, Chris Waddle with that ability, John Barnes, David Platt, whacking in the top corner, Gaza in midfield, and then a solid, back three, Terry Butcher, led by Captain, Marvel and Schultz at the goal. So put all that together, we developed this team that just got better and better and better. And yes. England, fortunately, then the press went with us and grew and started to think, actually, we might do something rather well here. So it was fortunate, and we did so well. Everything was lovely, but you're right. As soon as things start to go slightly bad again, that the axe is out, yes. And suddenly whack. And it's been like that ever since. And then when you do get a really good group of English players again, suddenly they call it maybe the golden era. Expectations are you've got to go and win the World Cup because, listen, we got to the semis. Now you've got to win it. Well, that's very, very difficult. And I think some of our teams in the past have suffered from that, but I think Gareth Southgate, what he's done really well is make that shirt lighter to wear, make it enjoyable, make it fun, make it a group together, a camaraderie that you can deal with that in a better way.
Yeah, you guys had that song in the last, that one that made it at the top of the charts that everybody got behind. So, So
Well in Motion. I actually got a gold disc for it. We were number one in the charts, and all my bit was the chorus, and all I said was England. That was it. Anyone that's heard me sing would understand that that is way too much as well for me to sing because I am tone deaf. But anyway.
So obviously your time at Chelsea comes to an end. You finish the World Cup, and now you get to play at a club with a great history. A club that 2 Australians have also contributed to, and we talk about Mark Viduka and Harry Kewell, who we love. But a club that when I think of your name, I say Aussie, Adelaide boy, Aussie, England World Cup, Leeds United. Okay, so that's that to me. When I think you, I think those words. So now looking back at your time at Leeds, is that, how would you describe that whole sort of crescendo of your time there and what you learnt? Tell us.
I think after leaving Chelsea, I've gone to Leeds, and the mentality was markedly different. It was incredible, and I suppose part of that is to do with the cities. So Chelsea is a small part of London. There are so many things going on in London, so many teams, so many things to do, etc., etc. In Leeds, there is only one thing, and that is Leeds United Football Club. It is everything revolves around the football club. So, you know, everyone is pulling for you. Now that's fine, but then the club, the players, the manager, you know, what are you then expecting? Well, we had Howard Wilkinson, the manager, and he was building something quite special. And I looked at the previous 2 or 3 seasons, how Leeds did, and that is really important as well. They come from the old second division. They bought better and better players. They bought Gordon Strachan. They won that title. They then get up into the big league. They finished 4th that season. They bought Gary McAllister. They you know, John Lukic from Arsenal, some great players that were adding to some great youngsters they had in David Batty and Gary Speed, who went on for great England and Welsh careers. So awesome players. So I'm looking at those and thinking, right, now manager's coming to me and says, but we're missing a couple of pieces of the jigsaw, and you are one of them. We need you at left back. We need you this. We need to do this. And this is how we're going to do it. And so he explained everything to me. And again, you're thinking, oh, when can I start? You know, when can I start this? And yeah, so I signed. I knew Steve Hodge was signing as well, another England international. I knew Rod Wallace, who was, I think he got 1 cap as well. He was going to sign as lightning quick up top. Those were the last pieces of the jigsaw that Howard wanted. So it was exciting. And I thought, right, you finished 4th last year. I can sense it already. Standards are high. My goodness, that group of players, that squad, that mentality, led by Gordon Strachan, I have to say, you know, training was an ordeal. You had to make sure you were at it every single second, every single minute, every single hour in training. And it was great. And that's what you want. Everyone was going in the same direction. So I thought, you know what, we've got a chance here of doing well. And that's how it started. I thought, we've got a chance of doing well. First game, kind of Ellen Road, I'm thinking, oh my God, the noise. You know, there's only 37,000 in there or whatever it was, but Jesus, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. They're like they were sucking the ball in for us, and the opposition are looking around going, oh my God, this is a bit nasty, isn't it? You know, so it was great. I'm thinking, wow, this is tremendous. Of course, we score first, they go crazy, and this momentum just starts to build. And I'm thinking, wow. And you mentioned before, you know, I'm 5'9". I felt 7 foot. Honestly, you know, I could have given Usain Bolt a run for his money.
Yep.
Like you just suddenly get that confidence, and so that was just the start, and it just went up and up and up.
And obviously, your first year there, you guys just kill it. what else can I say? You win the division title, and yeah, the obviously you guys go on to to have then you're in top flight of the Premier League. 92, you make the team of the year. 92, 93, you were in the top. The papers rated you in the top players in the the all-star team, whatever they call it. You're probably playing now. Now you're experienced. Now you're contributing in a quality side, but you're probably at the top of your game. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great because I went there at 25. That first year was amazing. We were tested in some big live TV games away from home. I remember going to Aston Villa. That's my first club, which was always strange as well. But going back there, they were a very good side. We beat them 4-1. We absolutely trounced them. And then we were second in the table. We went to third place, Sheffield Wednesday, away as well. We beat them 6-1. I score a 30-yarder free kick. Some of these performances are just, fantastic. They really are. We win the title. I think another really nice memory for me was that title-winning side. I was also Player of the Year for Leeds United, which for a fullback, from Aussie kid with those great players that Leeds had, I'm pretty proud, of those sorts of things. That ability and mindset can take you one heck of a long way. But yeah, I had a great time there. The city, I've moved back to Leeds now. I've been back here 3-4 years living here. I'm now an ambassador at Leeds United as well. I do all of their media. I do all their commentaries. I do preview shows for them. I do corporate stuff for them. I love the place. And that was really cemented by, those 6 years that I played here. We just had great times, great people. Really good times. And
tell us, throughout that time, you're playing with some fantastic players in that lead side. Who springs to mind your greatest chemistry connection on a personal level on the park? On the park, who did you connect most with? You on the left side, you obviously.
Yeah, for me, Gary Speed was just amazing. Speedo was you couldn't have wished for a better teammate because in front of me, I had this young lad. I think he's only 2-3 years younger than me. So him and David Batty were the two jokers in the pack, if you like. But they had great talent. I mean, they were amazing. But Speedo is the one that played in front of me. But he would come to me a lot of the time and ask, well, how would you like me to play today? Where would you like me to be positioned? And, if I give him an instruction, bang, he's there. If it was just, he could do everything. He could head the ball. He could dribble. He could right foot, left foot. He could tackle. He had an engine in him to dive for. He'd get up and down. He was just an all-round, great player and great guy. And so for me to be his teammate and work with him was like a dream. It was so easy. Actually, it's interesting. I think back a few years later, I went to Torino and played with Lentini. Yes. So the great Lentini at Torino, who played in front of me on the left-hand side. And after half an hour, I'm thinking, oh my God, you ain't no Gary Speed, let me tell you, Gigi, because you're driving me mad. You're not listening to me. You're giving the ball away. I'm going to have to work with you after the game. Whereas Speedo was the opposite. He was the ultimate professional and great teammate to play with. But you look at that midfield that we had, a talent, an absolute talent. But, Gary McAllister, David Batty. But the most influential, there's no doubt, was Gordon Strachan.
Yes.
He was the Pied Piper. He was the leader. He was diminutive in stature, 5'5", red hair. But I tell you what, he led the team and the club in a really important way.
And in your opinion, the other two Aussies that played for Leeds, both Harry Kewell and Mark Viduka, how do you rate their time at Leeds?
Fantastic, absolutely wonderful. And for me, I'm really proud that, so many Aussies now have gone on to play for Leeds, because I was kind of a trailblazer in lots of ways, but it's lovely to see for a reason, if I can do it, so many others can do it, surely. And Leeds, obviously close to my heart, then to see the likes of the Dukes, Harry Kewell, Jacob Burns, and all these players, come to the club was wonderful. I remember actually hooking up with Harry, because they told me that, hey, there's a young Aussie lad that's come. He plays left wing, which was interesting. Sorry, he played left back at the time. The other way around, actually. He started. He plays left back, but he's really quiet. So, do you want to come and say hello? I said, well, yeah, okay, I'll come and say hello. So I go visit Harry in his dorm where all the young players lived. And to get a word with him, I had to to get on the PlayStation and play this rally game. He had this car rally game that he was playing. So I jumped on there and we had a word or two, but he was just quiet, just got on with his stuff. He was a lovely lad, but he's just growing up. He was just a kid. And then I kept watching and listening to see how he was doing. And they said to me one day, oh, Harry's just scored a hat-trick. I said, a hat-trick? Where did he play? He says, left back. How can you score a hat-trick from left back? Put him further up the pitch, for goodness sake. So he made that swap. And obviously he was still a young kid then, but he started to develop. And I'd left by that stage. But to see him come through was amazing. Of course, Vidukes as well. And Vidukes is a player that, wow, for a big guy, he had some dancing feet. The ability that he had was wonderful. And when he was on it, he was at times unstoppable. So it was great to see those players do so well in a really good era for the club, because all I want, obviously, is for Leeds United to be successful and do really well. And when they were there, they certainly were that.
Fantastic. And so, how did you? Obviously, your dad's Italian, and your mum is Aussie. How did you make your way over to Torino? How did that shift transpire?
I was at Leeds for 6 years now, and I started getting just little injuries, which unfortunately nowadays would be next to nothing. I'd be diagnosed very quickly, and away I go. But I kept pulling my hamstring basically, but it was my sacroiliac joint. I won't go into too much detail, but that injury, just every 4, 5, 6 weeks, I would then miss a game or two. 4, 5, 6 weeks, then miss a few games in it, and it went like this for about a year. So it cost me my England place really. And then at Leeds, they wanted to offer me a new contract, but they wanted to offer me less money. I don't understand that. But anyway, as an England international, the way that it was, I'm thinking, this can't be right. So George Graham came in and said, listen, we want you to stay, but we can only offer you this. So I thought, okay. I had lots of other offers. I was about to go to Middlesbrough, where Brian Robson was the manager. I could have stayed in Leeds, lived in Leeds, and just travelled. So that was the nice bit. But Graham Souness called, and Graham Souness was a manager at Glasgow Rangers when he tried to sign me at Chelsea. He was trying to sign me for a year and a half there, and he finally was manager at Torino, and he said, listen, got a bit of a problem here. We've signed 14 new players at Torino. None of them have got a left foot. Do you want to come and have a bit of fun? I know you're 32, but yeah, exactly. We need someone to play on the left-hand side. We've got Lentini and no one else. Do you fancy it? I'm thinking, you know what? Yes, I wanted to go earlier, but it always couldn't find the right time or club. But at 32, let's go for an adventure.
That's hilarious.
So I ended up, Graham Souness brought me out there. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. And obviously, one could think of worse places, the fantastic pasta, gelato, coffee, Italian lifestyle, great football. Yeah, why not, huh?
It was amazing. And that's why I talk about forever learning as well. I mean, just different experiences. And that was incredible. I was fortunate because I was brought up, obviously, around Italian. So I loved a lot about Italy anyway. But I couldn't speak the language, so I had to pick that up pretty quickly. Within the first week, learned all the swear words. Second week, I then learned some football terms, and it was absolutely fine. But I so enjoyed it, but it was intense, technical, They have a different mentality of what they expect as players with their manager, and all that I just found as a really good learning curve. And I never forget one time the English newspapers ring me up, and after about 6 or 7 weeks, and they ring me up, and Gordon Strachan, my teammate at Leeds previously, has now become manager at Southampton, and Southampton now wanted to buy me, so they wanted to bring me back to the Premier League, and the Sun newspaper rings me up and says, right, we're running a story the next day, tomorrow, about you. Southampton want to buy you. You're having an absolute nightmare in Italy. You hate it out there, and you're going to come back to Southampton. That's the story. And I said, all right. I said, listen, mate, here I am. I'm in the piazza. I'm having my aperitivo. The sun is just coming down. It's 28 degrees. My risotto is just about to come in front of me. Then I'll go for vitello milanese. Then I'm going to have my gelato. Are you flipping mad? I am going absolutely nowhere. So, no, I loved it.
Journalists, huh? So
No.
we're running the story. So would you like a comment? We're running the story tomorrow. It's already typed up. Would you like to comment? Fantastic. And I think there's probably still a lot of that goes on because people need to sell newspapers, right? So, but there you go. So talk to me. Then obviously after Italy, you do a stint in back at Derby County. You spend a couple of years there, and then you finish up at Stoke. Now, fantastic career. When you decide to finally, okay, you say, all right, I'm hanging up the boots. It's done. What goes through your mind as a player's of, okay, what are the moments that gravitate to you, that if I say, okay, what was your greatest moment at Leeds?
I think certainly at Leeds winning the title and that camaraderie in the dressing room is what you remember. And so when you come to the end of your career, you suddenly realize that you're not going to have that anymore. That camaraderie is very, very difficult to replace. Well, it's impossible to replace. Simple as that. When you're in front of 40,000 people, 60, 70,000 people, you've got a bunch of guys and you achieve something special, and you're a god, you're a hero to these people, and you've done it with this special group. How do you replace that? So you quickly have to realize you can't replace that. Okay, you have to then do something else that gives you fulfillment and look that way. But at the same time, when I was coming to the end at Stoke City, I suddenly knew that I needed to stop, because suddenly that drive, that ambition, that to keep learning and keep pushing, suddenly it felt the opposite. It was really difficult. It was tough to keep that going. It was, and that's when I thought, you know what, Christmas time it was, so I still had 3-4 months left of the season, and I decided to hang my boots up, and that decision got me through to the end. I thought, right, last 3-4 months, here we go, do your best, see what you can do, and then retire. And it's like, but I accepted it. I think that's the thing. I think I understood, I accepted it, and I was looking beyond, what I was going to do. And I said, I love football. I'm passionate about it. I still want to talk about it in lots of different ways. And for me, going in the media was the ideal thing. So I had a TV company here give me a nice big 3-year contract for the media side. So it was a transition, that I wanted and I enjoyed, but understanding it was leaving behind something that I won't really experience again. But I've had my time. I did that, and I was very happy. A lot of players come to that point and they really, really struggle, and you can see why, because it's such a difference in lots of different ways. However, I was excited by my new challenge and how I needed to learn for the next bit of my life and career. 35. Hey, geez, you're still young. Only a third of the way through your life, so lots to do.
And you're just shy. You're looking fantastic. You're just shy of your 55th birthday. You're a New Year's resolution baby. So I can see how the turning of the year for you has formed part of maybe your ethos on how you turn the page or what's next throughout. But you're looking fantastic, almost 55. So I'm sure.
Thank you. I mean, I like to keep fit, and obviously during COVID and the lockdown and everything else, it's been an interesting time. But I am one of these that kind of, I like to strive for something, and so I got into cycling. That's what happened a good while ago. It was interesting. We were on a golf trip in Dubai, and a few ex-players were there as well. And there was a big final dinner at the end, 400 people there. And ex-player Russell Osman, who played for England as well, gets on the stage and says, unfortunately, my mother has passed away from breast cancer, but I'm going to do a charity bike ride to raise some funds. And we're going to call it Boys Out in Bikes, and we're going to raise a good bit of money. And if any of the other ex-players would like to join in, you are more than welcome. Anyway, people around me are giving me a little nudge and go on, Tony, you join in. I thought, oh, okay. So I stand up, put my hand up and say, yeah, I'll join in. All the crowd go, yes, fantastic, wonderful. And then Russell says, yes, the ride is in the summer. We're going to ride from Wembley in England to La Manga in Spain. Over the Pyrenees. It's 2 weeks, 1,400 miles, 100 miles a day. I'm thinking, what the bloody hell have I just done? It was just ridiculous.
Yes.
However, as anyone that now knows me thought, right, how long have I got? Where's my bike? Where's my training plan? Let's get this done.
Yes.
Training plan, and off I went. And I got super fit. I got up that blinking mountain first, right at the front. I absolutely loved it. And so from there on, I've cycled. So I like to cycle. Unfortunately, I was doing the Étape de Tour in France. So I was going to do the mountainous stage this year, which again, 110 miles up, God knows how many mountains. So I was training for that. So so I keep myself in trim. I've got outside bikes, smart bikes inside. I've got everything. So I really think it's important for a healthy mind and body to crack on.
And it's amazing how the mind-body connection and why players when you stop that physical activity, that mind-body connection, when people are fully fit, then your mind can be clear because you're exercising, energizing. When you stop that, then you lose part of that imbalance. So you've obviously maintained that through your cycling. It seems
you're absolutely right, but you don't realize that as players, ex-players. You see some ex-players that have just ballooned. You don't recognize them from when they played, because when you are told to train every day, and you're paid to train every day, you have to do it, and it's natural. Suddenly, when you retire, you don't have to do any of that anymore. So it's easy to get into that habit, but you're absolutely right. If you train, you feel great physically and mentally. You feel wonderful. So I always, I've tried to do that. You go through fluctuations, but I always find I need a challenge. I need something to aim for, and then I'm good.
And so obviously, like everybody said, it took an Aussie to show those English how it's done and play for England. They had to call on you. They couldn't find any of them over there, so they had to call on you.
Absolutely. See how bad England were at the time. They had to get an Aussie to come in and show them what the hell's going on.
Exactly.
So, which I'm proud of.
Absolutely. Maybe 15, but not just 15 games, because you played a number of games for the B side, and you played your under 21 games, which you captained. So probably closer to I'd say 30 or so games in with the England playing for England. But it probably could have been maybe 50 or 70 for Australia. And so that sliding door moment, because for me, I still am jealous of England for taking it. Just like I wish Craig Johnson played for Australia. I mean, being an Aussie boy and wanting the best Aussies to play for our country, I think that's a normal wish. And I think you would have done a job for us more than a job, and maybe things would have been different for us. Any regrets?
Yeah. I sometimes I try not to have regrets. I think because I make the decision at the time, so I don't think, oh my God, that was a disaster, because at the time it was the right thing to do. I always feel like that. Looking back, it could have been different. To think when I was growing up, it was about Johnny Warren. If you think that those sort of players, and you think, well, wow, put that green and gold shirt on. John Cosmina was again one of the players I looked up to. There's lots of those. Bugsy, actually Johnny Niskerhus at Adelaide City. There's all these sorts of players that they were my kind of aiming point.
Yep.
And idols, absolutely. And you think, was it 78 World Cup? Yeah, those are the things that you do certainly remember a lot.
Yeah.
And it would have been different. And it's interesting. I think one time when I was doing some punditry on TV, I said, it would have been great just to put that Australian shirt on. And my God, I got some flack for that from the English.
Stuffer, mate.
An Australian shirt on, yeah. But you know what? That's how I felt, and you have to respect. I certainly do. Where I come from and how I thought at that time, and I would have been so proud to have done that, but not to be, as you say, those sliding door moments. Yeah.
So to us, Tony Dorigo, you'll always be that Aussie who made it in the big smoke over there in England. You're much loved and respected. You've accomplished it all, sir. And we love you for it. Obviously, your time at Leeds, and who can forget that 1990 World Cup. So if you could give any advice to the young Aussie boys that will be listening to it, what would that be?
I would say dream big. Dream big. You don't know how far you can actually go unless you believe it. So believe it. And if I can do what I've done and reach the very pinnacle, now you have access to so much more, better coaches, better facilities, better opportunities, easier to get to places, easier to be discovered. If I could have done it then, you guys have got a great opportunity. So it's always possible, but just remember, it's always down to you. And if Trump can be president of America, then anything is possible. Hey, is that right or what?
What an absolute pleasure, Mr. Tony Dorigo. You'll always be an Aussie to us, okay, despite playing all those games for England. And we thank you for your contribution to world football. And we wish you all the very best in your media works. And every now and then, if you see an Aussie boy playing in England, there's not that many there at the moment. But if you see an Aussie boy make sure you pump up his tyres, because we need all the help we can get.
Absolutely, it's been an absolute pleasure. I now try and get back to Australia as much as I can as well. Obviously, with the COVID, I haven't been able to recently, but we really enjoy getting back down under, see the family and what have you, and look forward to the next time. And thank you anytime, Sasha. Great to talk to you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, sir.